Welcome everybody to day number 3 of our Next Fest 2022 coverage. Taking a look at some of my favorite games that we've played their demos of from Next Fest. And we are going to start this episode with Curse Crackers, For Whom the Belle Toils. This is the next game from Colorgrave, who did Prodigal, which is one of my favorite games we played last year. And they've traded in the Zelda action-adventure for some good old-fashioned 2D platforming. We play as this girl here, who, a long time ago, a whole lot of evil has happened to this world, and now she's just trying to have a living. But the game definitely hints at some very dark and mysterious undertones underneath the delightful platforming. Now, the platforming itself is built a lot on movement and jump tech. My little floating bell there, as you can see, can be launched at enemies. I can also use it to launch myself up, as well as do a super jump, run jump, slide jump, a whole lot of jumping that speedrunners are really going to enjoy. Now, the big thing about Curse Crackers here is that the game is definitely going the Nintendo route, in the sense that there is a lot of hidden bonus and very difficult challenges in Curse Crackers. And I think the game could do a better job, at least from this demo, of showcasing some of the movement tech. The tutorial wasn't, I think, the best in terms of advanced tech, and a lot of the stuff I was just finding out by experimenting while we were playing this on stream. So I'm hoping that the full game will at least do a little bit more to explain that. However, if you are a fan of 2D action adventure or 2D action platforming, I would definitely check this one out, because it's a lot of fun to play, and there's certainly a lot of bite here for people looking for those extreme challenges. We now turn to Lone Ruin. This is a action roguelike. However, the demo that we played only had the survival mode, kind of like Vampire Survivors-esque kind of design. But from what we played of it, this seems like it's going to be a pretty interesting game. Very stylized, with the focus on leveling up and collecting different spells, which in turn will affect what you can and can't do on each run, and of course dodging all manner of enemies. Now, because of the fact that we can't see the story mode itself, it does make it a little bit hard to give a proper assessment. But I do hope that there's a little bit better tells for enemy attacks in the finished game, as some of these enemies just seem to make it very hard to see where they're aiming before you can even get a chance to react. But definitely some challenge here, especially with the fact that your dash and everything has cooldowns. And again, very chill music. And I'm hoping to see more of this game, and I'm curious to see where the actual story mode goes in terms of the action gameplay and the roguelike elements. We now turn to something very different, and that is Hellscreen. This is modern retro FPS, but with the twist that, well, we have a rear view mirror, as you can see up there. And the mirror itself allows us to view invisible enemies, see through the dark, and basically guarantee that nothing will ever sneak up on us, ever, in this game. You're able to switch between a larger viewpoint and shoot forward with the left mouse button, backwards with the right. The game also has a lot of interesting systems here. I'm not sure if this is procedurally generated or if it's just a set of fixed levels. You also get a damage boost when you're running forward. That's the X1, X2 that you see underneath my mirror. It's a very clever idea, I think, for this game, that it's not quite a retro FPS despite the aesthetics and charm, and it's doing some things very differently. The main complaint that I have with the game is that the aesthetics to me felt a little bit hard on the eyes. Everything kind of blends together, especially when you're running at high speed, that it started to hurt. It started giving me a little bit of a headache, I think, when I was playing this one. But still, very clever concept, and I think a really great kind of moving the needle in a different direction for a retro FPS. But we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for today's showcase. And as always, if you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. We now turn to Fashion Police Squad, another retro-minded FPS, but with a few twists here and there. We play as the fashion police in this city, and when crimes against fashion are rearing their head, it's up to us to make everyone look fabulous. Which, as somebody who just wears jeans all the time, I feel I may be a bit of a hypocrite for playing this one. But the style and the aesthetic of FPS is really well done. I like the fact that the environments are very wide open. There's definitely, well, no pun intended, a lot of style to the cutscenes and dialogue. Now, one thing that I find very interesting about the gunplay is that while this may look like your traditional FPS, what they've done is that every enemy type has, well, a different fashion crime associated to them, which means you have to use a different weapon in order to deal with them. So there's definitely some hints of Doom Eternal here, in that you can't just use one gun and beat everything. Levels are loaded with secrets. You have the Fab meter at the bottom that you can activate for a one-time kind of ultimate attack for each level. There appears to be bosses and especially platforming, as you can swing around using a special fashion belt as well. If you're not a fan of FPSs, Fashion Police Squad is not going to, I think, do anything for you. But if you're looking for one that is just a completely different tone, away from grimdark, demons, murder, that kind of thing, then definitely check this one out. We now go to a game that I am absolutely terrible at, but can certainly admire the creativity, and that is Blocky Dungeon. This is a roguelike meets Tetris. Yes, that is the combination here. How this works is that we build our dungeon, well, out of blocks. You can move your knight that you can see at the bottom of the screen at any time, and your mission is to build the path, set up where the enemies are, and deal with them without taking damage yourself. You can activate lines to give yourself an attack boost, and this can also be used to trigger combos, where each time you kill an enemy at the exact amount of health will raise your attack for the next one. There are a lot of very interesting systems and mechanics at play here. My problem with this one is very simple. I just do not like Tetris. I've never been a fan of that kind of gameplay, so unfortunately Blocky Dungeon doesn't really work for me. However, if you do love Tetris, or you're looking for a very different take on roguelike design, then certainly check this one out. For the last game of our episode today, this is Swordship. I love the aesthetic and style of this one just to get started. Our hook here, as the story page describes, is a shoot 'em up where you can't shoot. Your mission is you're basically running a cargo in this city while the bad guys are trying to stop you. The twist is that in order to deal with the enemies, you're not actually going to shoot them, you have to trick them into killing each other. Your only main mechanic is your ability to dive underneath the water for a short period of time, while the enemies themselves will be appearing, and the levels are randomly generated, or the threats are going to be randomly chosen each time you play. Get through a level, and you'll be able to trade in your boxes that you pick up for either more lives or more points, with an emphasis on progression in terms of unlocking additional ships that may come with like a unique ability, but you will not be actually directly fighting the enemies. Very great concept, I would say, for this kind of game. My concern, I don't know what the legs are going to be for this in terms of what's going to keep somebody playing this multiple times. It seems to be, at least from what we play, kind of a once you beat it, I don't know there's going to be anything else to keep you invested. But still, really great concept. If you're looking for a different kind of game, or you like shoot 'em ups or dodge 'em ups, then definitely check out Swordship. But with that said, we're going to wrap up our Next Fest video here. I'm sure there'll be more in the coming days. As always, do the liking, subscribing, and commenting. Check out our Discord and Patreon link down below. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where I examine the art and science of games.